Well, critics are blasting the Ford government, claiming they've muddled numbers to make it appear they're investing more in education than they actually are. Today, the union representing secondary school teachers accused the government of misleading the public and shortchanging students. But the education minister insists record investments are being made for the upcoming school year.
So we recognize the needs are rising. It's why in the most recent budget we've increased investment.
The government claims it is investing an additional $693 million in the grants for student needs, which determines annual school board funding per student. That's a 2.7% increase from last year, but the president of the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation says the number is actually closer to 0.8%.
The Ontario Progressive Conservative Party is deliberately shortchanging students and underfunding public education.
Karen Littlewood says the government artificially reduced the subtotal of last year's funding by removing $300 million in COVID-19 recovery money, making this year's investment appear artificially high. That, coupled with enrollment increases, means funding is now $600 less per student than it was last year, and $1,200 less than it was when the government took office in 2018, if inflation is taken into account.
Per student funding is up this year as it was up last year.
But when you take inflation into account?
$693 million increase, notwithstanding that enrollment is flat in Ontario. I understand that the union and this organization funded by a union have come out to make this claim, but I think what parents see is that the government is investing more, $693 million, but we are now expecting more from the system, and we want to see greater outcomes associated with student achievement.
This government likes to say it's going back to basics, but like math. But that's a little ironic because their math here just does not add up.
Critics also taking issue with the new education bill introduced earlier this week. Bill 98, the Better Schools and Student Outcomes Act, is what the education minister calls the first education overhaul in a generation.
I will note the members opposite have yet to disclose one substantive concern with the legislation.
The bill gives the government more control over school board academic priorities to address concerns in areas like writing and math, and a larger role in selling off surplus school properties.
We have a government that's prioritizing selling schools over investing in students.
Their justification for selling off schools is just a cover for transferring even more public land to private developers.
But we're told the money from any sold properties can only be used on schools to buy, build, or maintain them.
I find it unfair and frankly unusual for opposition members to oppose the government's aim to accelerate building schools. The sale of all schools will stay within the education system.
The education minister adds this year's funding guarantees the hiring of 2,000 additional frontline educators. Meanwhile, the Science Centre remained a hot topic here at Queen's Park today. Critics demanding to know the cost of moving the Science Centre to Ontario Place, which the government has yet to reveal. And the government House leader says it will be renaming the Science Centre stop in the new Ontario line.